All right, lesson 2 in Math 15. We're looking at multiplying and dividing integers. Lesson is pretty short. Again, this should seem familiar. We've got a nice little box here in the corner with a nice little chart that you can use for reference for when you're multiplying and dividing. So, when you are multiplying and dividing, or dividing, a positive times a positive is a positive. A positive times a negative is a negative. A negative times or divided by a positive is a negative, and a negative times or divided by a negative is a positive. So what you notice here is if their signs are the same, we get a positive. So if the signs are the same, we get a positive, okay? And I'm actually going to change this color here. Change that to the green, right? If their signs are different, you get a negative answer. So when I get a positive times a negative, I get a negative answer. When I get a negative times or divided by a positive, I get a negative answer. So basically, we're just looking at what are the same signs and what are the different signs. So this is a nice little chart. We'll color code it a bit so we can see how that works and look at those things. So really think about it. If the signs are the same when you're multiplying and dividing, you're going to get a positive. If the signs are different, if one of them's positive and one's negative, you're going to get a negative answer. Okay? So the rules are the same for multiplication and division. And then you say, well, what about if it's more complex, like you have 3 or 4? Well, then you're going to think about whether you have an odd number or even number that you're multiplying. So if there's an odd, oops, I want my pen, not my. If you have an odd number of negatives, multiplying or dividing, it will be negative. If you have an even number of negatives, it will be positive, okay? So let's look at these ones here. If I have -6 times -2 times -4, I have 3 negative signs, right? So it's going to be a negative answer, which 6 times 2 is 12 times 4 is 48. Now you can break that up as well. I could go bit by bit. So let's actually do that. I'm going to erase this and I'm just going to do it step by step. If you take it step by step, -6 times -12, well, I got a negative times a negative, so I'm going to get a positive, or -6 times -2, so I get a positive 12, then times my -4. Well, look, now I have a positive times a negative, so that would be negative, so I get -48. But it still works if you just count the number of negative signs, okay? So here, just to check, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 negatives, so I'm going to expect my answer to be positive, right? Because I've got an even number, right? So let's check. Let's do it step by step. If I multiply these two, I get positive 16, because a negative times a negative, times -9 times -1. So multiply these two, positive 16 times -9. I got a positive times a negative, so it'll be -144 times -1. And now I have a negative times a negative, so I should get a positive answer, so positive 144. Now, again, I could just simply multiply those numbers, add up my negative signs, and discover that I have an even number, and that will give me my positive answer. So let's do a little practice together, okay? And at any time you want to pause, try them yourself and check them, please do that. So here, they're both positive. It's just like normal multiplication. 4 times 5, it will be 20. Here, I have a positive times a negative, so it's going to be a negative 20. Here, it's a division question, negative 40 divided by positive 8. So negative divided by a positive, they're different signs, so my answer will be negative 5. 72 divided by negative 9, positive divided by a negative, I'll get a negative, and it'll be 8. Okay, negative 3 times 6, I got a negative times a positive, so my answer will be negative, and it'll be 18. Now here, I have 3 times negative 6. Here I had negative 3 times positive 6. You'll notice I get the same answer. This is related to the commutative law, but it doesn't really matter what order we have it in and where that negative sign is. Okay. Here I have negative 6 divided by negative 3. They're both negative, so I'm going to get a positive answer, and it will be equal to 2. Now, you don't have to write, I'll tell you about this. Mathematicians are lazy. We don't write positive signs if we don't have to, but you can, and it's not wrong if you do. Okay? 6 divided by negative 3, we have a positive divided by a negative, so our answer will be negative, so it's equal to 2. Now, the same rule about laziness does not apply when this sign is negative. You do need to write the negative signs down, because otherwise we don't know that it's negative. So while we're learning, if you know that if you make frequent mistakes, write your positive signs down. It's not going to be wrong. Negative 42 divided by negative 6. Well, it's a negative divided by a negative. The signs are the same, so I know my answer will be positive. 42 divided by 6 is 7. Negative 3 times negative 8. They're both negative, so it's going to be positive. 3 times 8 equals 24. 200 divided by negative 5. I have a positive divided by a negative, so my answer will be negative. 200 divided by 5 is 40. And then negative 136, divided by negative 2. They're both negative, so my answer will be positive, and it will be equal to 68. Now here we have some of these ones where there are 3. So let's go use our order of operations. Remember our BEDMAS. Brackets, exponents, division and multiplication from left to right, addition and subtraction from left to right. Okay, so we're going to do the division first. Negative 28 divided by negative 4 is equal to positive 32, and then it's divided by 8. Positive 32 divided by positive 8 is 4. Okay, here multiply and divide from left to right. So we'll do the multiplication here first. Negative 42 times negative 6 is 252, and it's positive because it's a negative and a negative, divided by 3. 252 divided by 3 equals 84. Okay, so that's an important thing to note with BEDMAS, that we divide and multiply from left to right. They're kind of like little partners. Okay, ooh, why am I not picking up my eraser? So it's from left to right for the dividing and multiplying and adding and subtracting. Okay, so I'm going to put a sheet in. Well, I think I've already done that. With BEDMAS, we might go over those rules. Okay, now you have some practice to do yourself. We're going to come back and go over that together, just to kind of